Hello everybody, hello new subscribers. I'm JP Moss, author, researcher. Thank you for subscribing and coming out to my channel here on YouTube. Beniico of the Sasani is an extraterrestrial human hybrid that in my book, titled by that name, Beniico of the Sasani, it talks about my own personal encounter of meeting her in 1992, around this time, in November 1992. This video is the 20th of November, and I'm coming to you from Suffolk, England. Very wet, very damp, very cold, uninviting. It's not exactly very friendly weather. Not very friendly weather at all. What had happened was, from my perspective, I'm getting a phone call in 1992. I'm getting memories of meeting a girl that come back to me. I'm getting a phone call. She says she's in the custody of the U.S. Air Force. And I don't know what to make of that. I think it's a prank call. And then I feel a connection with her psychically, telepathically. There's all kinds of connections going on here. We talk for hours. And she says there's an impending thing coming up where I'm going to be taken into custody by the military along with her. And they want to put us together. She'd been telling the military about me, that she knew about me in advance, and I'd been taken by her and the Zetas on these craft under some kind of long-term surveillance program of my development, growth, and me, that she was taking care of me. But I didn't have any memory of this. And then she said to get through this experience, we have to bond and fuse quantumly. Our energy has to combine. And so we did a psychic bonding. A few days later, I'm out listening to my headset, standing on the side of Mother's property there in Texas one night, coming up on the 22nd of November. And there are like 15 Range Rovers, tint glass Range Rovers that come to the property that arrive in the courtyard. And all these military people start getting out everywhere, and a blonde lady gets out and says, "Stay where you are," and I did. I went to ask questions, and she says, "I'm not answering any of your questions unless you come out of the property." So I stepped out of the property, and she said, "You just have to wait and see what happens." This girl gets out of the car, about 4 feet tall, with strangely colored eyes, long, straight hair, and wearing some kind of uniform with a triangle in the uniform. Now, we met face to face, we hugged each other, and she said that was part of finishing the bonding procedure of our energy. Very important that we hugged. There was a colonel there that was running the operation at the time. There were loads of people about. The night was eventful, but very strange, not because of meeting her. I saw a guy arrive out of nowhere. There was a triangular UFO flew over the courtyard. Everybody was aghast and frightened. And this one lady said, "Sir, they're in the area." And a man, a bearded guy with glasses and a baseball cap arrived, middle-aged looking fella. And he said he was there to get Beniico. She said her name was Beniico. And she said she uses spoken language, but they use telepathy to communicate, and that Beniico was not her name, but an energy signature of a name that best identifies her. In our phone calls, she had indicated that she had been known by the name of Rachel, that she had been on Earth before, her craft had been taken down before. Their craft get taken down by radar beams used by the Air Force intelligence. And that she'd been taken into custody in the late 1960s, and she was cared for by a colonel. And he kind of adopted her as like a dad. And she went to a college. And they gave her the name Rachel. And she was able to pass herself off more or less as human, because she didn't look, I wouldn't say alienish. She was someone that you could, with sunglasses, pass her off as a human being, like a small female human being. And so she goes through this school. She met people, interacted with people. She said in the future they're going to, she said, I'm Rachel. I was known as Rachel. She said that will mean something to certain people. She hadn't been killed, but it had been reported in the 1970s that in fact she died. That in fact that they had found her DNA to be a healing quality. That it had healing qualities to it, and she survived and healed from her injuries from the crash, which was around the late 1960s, 67. The American government had been a part of a program with the Zetas since 1954-55, and they had made an agreement secretly where in Four Corners, New Mexico, around that area, and Area 51, Groom Lake, Nevada, the Zeta beings would be taking and abducting human beings out of America, and for the process of creating hybrid beings like Beniico, or Rachel, whichever you want to call her. She also gave me the name Beenum, that she could also be known as Beenum, but for all the books and my videos, she's Beniico. And she had indicated that they had been ongoing with this program for some time, but the American government was taking them as an enemy and a threat, and no longer wanting to cooperate with the abduction programs and wanted them to end. She went on to tell me about the future. She could see the future of events that were going to take place, that I was going to be meeting her. We were going to be combining our energies as one, that it was a mating process, but that she had been aware that her DNA had been taken out of her and had been given to an infant that had been abducted from this actress in California that I'd mentioned in my videos, Annette Funicello, this actress, who had fallen into serious trouble with the mafia and the CIA. Such was the seriousness of this nature that the baby was abducted in 1972 out of St. Joseph's Hospital, April 21st. The baby would have been known as Thomas Michael Gilardi. Under California records, the baby is declared legally dead, deceased, because he was never found again. Annette in my meetings with Annette, she'd indicated that her first husband, Jack Gilardi, was CIA and had trouble with the mafia. And the couple was in trouble with the mafia. She joined the CIA, Annette joined the CIA, rather, in the 1970s to find the lost baby, and discovered that, in fact, it was not just the mafia, but members of the CIA themselves, who were working with the mafia, but not under the CIA's instruction, to take the baby from California and hold me for ransom for $50 million. There was a $50 million and switch me at birth in Texas with a baby down there. So if things didn't go to plan, I would be left. Slick as snot, that's it. No evidence. I'd just be raised in another family. Jack tried to get her out of Project MK Ultra, mind control, sex abuse, sex assault with the CIA. And that was part of the retaliation that she discovered. The CIA were very angry that she'd found me, so they punished her very severely in the 80s. She was put into black market porn films. Beniico during that time was taking me aboard crafts while I was growing up and nurturing and mothering me and being a mother to me. Motherly nurturing me. Seeing that I was an orphan, not really getting that love growing up, but she was there for me even if I wasn't going to remember it. Her craft was brought down again in Texas in 1992 when the Air Force picked up on NORAD radar a vehicle in the North Texas area. So F-16s were scrambled and brought the craft down. I was a volunteer firefighter at the time with Pelican Bay Volunteer Fire Department. I was age 20 and an Army veteran. Well, I didn't go overseas, but I had been in the Army Reserves. I was out of my Army training by that time. That can be validated through Arperson, Illinois Inactive Ready Reserves. And I also have my DD Form 214 and my 201 file to back up this information. And I can also back up and verify that I've been a firefighter at the time. And on the night in question, in November 1992, while I was in my mother's garage playing the stereo, I heard a loud explosion outside the property, up in the sky. It shook the town. Everybody went running and scrambling down Gilly Trail, which was a street. We immediately responded that night, got down the street, hundreds of people looking up in the sky, describing a large orangish ball of light that was descending silently when an F-16 was seen intercepting it. It was a loud explosion. The F-16 was flying off at high speed. The ball of light came down. Upon investigating this, we found no exploded propane tanks, no exploded trailers, because drug dealers were in that town, and they often had drug labs that would blow up. Well, we couldn't find anything else. It was a big mystery. We contacted Carswell Air Force Base out of Fort Worth. My fire chief was Gary Trujillo. My captain was Frank Clark. The assistant chief was Russell Harold, which I am still in contact with Russell Harold. I believe Gary has passed away, and Frank died in 2012. And upon contacting Carswell Air Force Base at the time, they did, at first, the captain did say there was something on radar being tracked by NORAD. It was there, and that their F-16s were in the area. The next day, they denied having that conversation with the fire department, visited the fire department, and told us to keep our mouths shut about it. We then began to investigate the possibility of a downed aircraft or a Cessna that had fallen out of the sky or exploded. We went around and combed the local lake area, lakefront. We did find a large patch of burned, circular burn patch, and a lot of Army tracked vehicles in the ground, tracks of vehicles around this large orange. It was a large burned circular patch outside Pelican Bay, down Pelican Drive North. Hazelwood, it was at Hazel Drive. I don't remember the name of the road. We made a report that we found this large, unusual patch, turned it over to the Tarrant County Fire Marshal's office, and that was the end of that. As I said, I was then contacted by phone by this girl who gave me this extraordinary story that she was a hybrid, extraterrestrial human hybrid. I thought it was a prank call. Like I said, the next thing that happens is they bring her to me, and we have this night where I'm meeting this extraterrestrial human hybrid girl face to face. And she had told me that when her craft came down originally, this is like the second time they brought her down. In the 1960s, she was about 14. They estimated her age to be about 14 years of age. Now, I've been telling that story since 2010, the exact same way, the exact same story. And what's interesting is somebody pointed something out to me I had not been aware of. Was Linda Mouton Howe's interview with Helen Cantrell, who had her and her daughter had interacted with an extraterrestrial human hybrid girl in 1971-72, who had gone to college with her daughter. And apparently this girl had gone by the name of Rachel. And everything Helen described to Linda in the interview that I have heard on this radio interview identically matches in every way with Beniico. In every way. The DNA that is in me, that was given to me, subsequently here in England, I was subjected to a genetic test at age 27 in the year 2001. It was here at the Stoke Park Medical Clinic here in Ipswich. I had gone in having some various symptoms, things wrong with me, and my doctor wanted to test me to see. I was new to the country. I'd only been here since '97. And he wanted to do a blood screen, full blood check, blood genetic test on me. And he sent away my blood to the hospital, and they came back with the results, and the doctor called me down and said, there are people coming down to this clinic to take you to London, to the London Medical Center immediately. They have train tickets to come pick you up. And he said, I'm going to cancel you as a patient to protect you. And I said, okay. And he said, what we found in your genetic test was that 12 to 14% of you is not human, is not identifiable. This is not junk DNA. He said, they don't know what it is. And they said, because they don't know what it is, you've hit the alarm bells, a lot of people, and they've reported this to the authorities in London. And I stood up, what the hell am I? What's going on? I was shocked as hell. And he says, you're a new father, you've got 2 kids. I got to think about my patient's needs. He canceled me, and I do have those results in patient records, patient files. Now those records are sealed. I have agreed with my current doctor to have another genetic test done. The story is absolutely extraordinary what I'm bringing you. And I have something about me which I am able to heal from most injuries and illnesses all my life. I'm 44 years old. Yes, I wear glasses. I do have some medical issues, but I have been able to do things that have amazed doctors. I was 17 in my fire training. We went to Mineral Wells, Texas, and we were doing a firefighter training day down in Mineral Wells, where hundreds of firefighters came out. and we were on an operation called it was called the Christmas tree. There was a giant steel 20-foot high tree that blew out propane gas, and they ignite this thing. Part of our training was, in our fire training day in Mineral Wells, was to put the tree out. But they told us, do not put your visor down in your helmet. If you do that, propane gas will swirl up underneath, and it can be pretty deadly. So they told us, leave our visors up. We did not have any protective masks on. And so we went to put the tree out. Well, my face shield kept coming down. It was a broken helmet. I mean, we're volunteers, and it kept coming down. And they saw the propane gas, well, they saw fumes or whatever swirling around. One of the firemen saw me getting dizzy, and I went straight down. They took me to Palo Pinto General Hospital, where the doctor examined my lungs and the ovula. He did an x-ray, and he said that my lungs were shutting down. I was going to die. He said that I was going to die. And he said, do you have any next of kin? And I couldn't talk that well. I was wheezing really badly. I was my lungs were filled with propane. Absolutely filled with propane. I was absolutely gone. He said, you're not going to make it. And he went out of the room. I heard him talking, and he said, we need the coroner. I gave him an hour. He's not going to come out of this. I don't know what's happening. All of a sudden, I feel cold all over, and I feel shaking, and I feel my body shaking, and I feel my chest shaking, and next thing I know, I'm breathing. And I got up off the table, not thinking anything about this, thinking, well, he just got it wrong. He's just silly, whatever. And I went to come out of the room, and the doctor said, what the hell's going on? No, he says, I have you diagnosed as you're not going to make it. He said, you're going to ruin my reputation. He says, I'm glad to see you getting better. And everybody's running around, and they start making fun of the doctor. They said, well, you're a young doctor. You're going to get it wrong. And he's like, no. I checked this man's lungs. They were failing. He said, I've seen cases like this before with propane engineers, propane tank engineers, and they do die. He said his lungs are quite saturated. And his blood count, his gas blood count was awful. And I just shake it off. And I walked out of that room, and the firemen waiting in the lobby, and I said, and they said, we were just giving bad news. You weren't going to make it. I said, I don't know what he's talking about. Let's just go home. So we left. And about a week later, the smell of it finally came out of me, and it was gone. And that's not the first time that's happened, where I heal very rapidly. Beniico told me that I had her DNA in me, that it was given to me as an infant, so I could survive the abduction from my mother in California. And the abductors were CIA working for the mafia who gave me that stuff. They had somehow got a hold of Rachel's DNA, or Beniico rather, and had given it to me as an infant. I was a newborn. And somehow she was aware of that, knew where it ended up. Somehow they have a way of doing that. It's radio DNA. There it is. So with love and peace to you all out there in the world, we send our love to you. She's here in me, and I'm here. And on behalf of us both, we love you very much. And I thought I'd give you this 20-minute rundown about her origins and her beginnings, and a quick kind of review of what happened and what brings us to where we are now today. And again, you don't have to believe any of this. You don't have to believe or hear any of this. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch this. You don't have to subscribe to it and waste your time watching it just to say, go do something better with your time if you don't like it. That's what I say to people. It doesn't resonate, you don't like it, then go do something better. Like, do something productive. If you're just coming on my channel to, attack or run the guy down, you're just wasting your time. Okay? Do something productive with your life. And for those of you who are here, we thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much for, following me, following us on this journey. And we love you very much. Thank you.